Okay, and hello everyone. I am SEO to Blogs growth marketer here at Authoritas, and I'm joined by our long-standing client, Grant Whiteside, SEO Director Europe at DAC.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
So we at Authoritas are turning 10 years old. Actually, we turned 10 just last month. For some of you that came to Brighton SEO, we had some cupcakes to celebrate, and also we've been doing our 10 years in search interview series. So we decided to put on a webinar to also share with you some brand new features that we think would be very useful for you and your clients. They are Visibility Explorer and also Frequently Asked Questions Explorer. The webinar will be about 20 minutes, followed by Q&A. And at the end of the webinar, you should be able to take back from you, as we put on the presentation and the advertisement, you'll be able to take away 3 key things. How to, 1, gain competitive insights. How to, 2, identify content gaps. And 3, own more of the SERPs. So I'll be taking you through these 2 different features, and Grant will also be going through in detail how he used them as well to gain, to help him with his clients. So just kicking off first is our Visibility Explorer. So this was launched in April this year. It immediately gives you insights to any domain that's in our database. So we have 26 different markets within Visibility Explorer here. I've just had it defaulted to the UK because I wanted us to look at 4 different companies stroke e-commerce sites. So Visibility Explorer, as I mentioned, available to 26 different countries, and we also have 125 million commercial keywords. So there's a lot of data that you can get out of this. So I've put these ones in here, Selfridges, John Lewis, Marks and Spencers, and Joules, because they're all very different, but they can give a lot of insight as to how they're performing in the marketplace. So looking at our overview section here, you can actually see how these are all appearing according to the visibility score. Now this is based on keyword rankings, URLs, the keyword ranking URL, sorry, the search volume, and the click-through rate. Now here we can see John Lewis is actually higher than Selfridges and Marks and Spencers. So it's leading, really, it's beating its other competitors for the visibility. And I want to ask you, Grant, actually, how best did you use, the Visibility Explorer, which, as I mentioned, has the data across 26 markets, and we also have 13 months of data too.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a great tool for just throwing in the URL in the first place and seeing exactly how it performs within the market, and then put it in context with that of your competitors. The other tabs right next to it, ranking URLs, is a nice place to start. Clearly identifying the key pages that have ranking keywords. What's a ranking keyword? In the world of Authoritas, I believe this is a ranking keyword that's within the top 100 of the SERPs within that period of time. But it does show you over the period of time the key URLs that are landing on that are driving in traffic, and the number of URLs that are actually driving them too. So you can clearly see from this that Marks and Spencers do have a reasonable range there, as do John Lewis as well, of the big pages that actually drive in. It's a nice little starting point, but obviously beyond this, we need to see the specific keywords that those specific URLs are driving traffic for. The ranking URLs, I love the universal results space, because obviously this is identifying videos, image, instant answers, places, top stories, PAAs, instant answers, all sorts of things along those lines. So very, very quickly, we can look at various content types that these specific brands may be ranking for. Moving from left to right, we can see Selfridges here, but as you pull your way along, you can see John Lewis and everybody else. Quite often, we're looking at the top URL, as in we can take the brand, and then we can splice that down by the rank as well. So we'll be looking at the rank for John Lewis. Maybe an example from that. So,
yes.
And quite often what we're doing is identifying everything from one to the bottom. Quite often I take the, thank you very much, there we go. Just like live television, take a little bit of time there, and then we can get to see the specific ranks and the specific pages that are talking to them. Quite often using the little tab on the top right hand side there, quite often I like to just download the data. I'm a bit of an Excel head, so I do like to put various filters in place so I can look at low-hanging fruit. That's 11s, 12, 13, 14 positions and things like that. Things that wouldn't take too much effort in the first place, maybe to get to the front page. So that's a good way of looking at of not only the content types and the specific URLs that are ranking for these things, but it also gives you an idea of some of the areas where you may be ranking for things, but not looking for those exactly as you're mousing over there. The people also asking the instant answers. And this is exactly where the new tool that we're talking about, the Visibility Explorer tool, takes us to the next level. So once I've downloaded all this information, we have a good idea about where we're ranking, where we are in comparison to that of our competitors. Looking at the FAQ Explorer tool is a good way to take that a little bit further into the instant answers and the people also ask space as well.
Yes, that's great. So just before we go into frequently asked questions, I just wanted to show for some people that maybe are not aware what it is within the search results. So if we click on something like Jules Wellies, people do like Jules Wellies. So here we have it here, type that in. And then this is the people also ask here. So Jules they have their position here, which is great. But if you click on people also ask, it's actually other websites that are owning this area here. So it's because the website itself doesn't actually have that information on it. So, but it's very interesting to see that there. But this is how, if you were to own the search results, so Selfridges delivery, the people ask out, Selfridges does have that under their delivery section.
And we find that being seen is half the battle. It's the perfect platform for to being considered as an authoritative source of providing that information when people are looking to gain information about your brand or your product in the first place. So the tool itself is just simply throw in a query, wait under a minute, it generates the first 30 answers to you. It identifies the URL, the question, the query that actually came up in the first place, and who's actually providing that information. Obviously, you can take those first 30 queries and then you can extend it again. Sometimes you realize that the same query is actually coming up, or rather, the same answer is being provided to a slightly different query as well. So it does give you a very good idea, as I say, of how you are seen to be seen in the first place in the search engines, just as a point of consideration.
Yes. So for the second platform, or the second feature that we had launched in April this year, was the frequently asked questions explorer. And as Grant said, if you're not, he was using this to be able to identify what people are asking. I believe you also said it also helped you to own more of the search landscape.
Oh yeah, very much so. Yes. And the other thing that seems to happen is that these answers, these can be updated, right? So there is an opportunity for you to say, can I provide a more concise answer, a more relevant answer? Because answers change all the time.
Yes,
and things do change, and websites change as well. So you've got to remember, somebody may have had that ranking, had that position, done a migration, put in a brand new website, and it may be that opportunity there for somebody to go and trump that space for you at that moment in time as well. So just because somebody provides that answer, that doesn't mean to say that you don't stand a chance of providing a more concise or more relevant answer to that experience.
Yeah, that's correct. So, for Visibility Explorer, as we saw, we can see, where people are ranking for. People also ask. As we showed before, we had the Jules Wellies, that there was other companies that were ranking for people also ask, and not Jules itself. And with our other platform, other feature, Frequently Asked Question Explorer, you can actually, if you want to be ranking and owning that space, for example, here I've done Christmas gifts, you want to be able to see what people are asking. So by putting in the term Christmas gifts, as Grant mentioned, we do have 30 different results here. These are different related questions. It also highlights which URLs are ranking. So you can, as Grant said, find out what people are asking, find out who's ranking for it. And just because they are ranking for it doesn't mean that they will always. I mean, Grant, you mentioned yesterday maybe one of your clients sort of did a site migration. So
yes, they did. Yes.
there's things that change quite regularly. And just so that people know between in the webinar, what is the difference between people also ask and frequently asked questions, I've just put this one in the search results before. So this is in going up to the top, this is compare credit cards. So compare credit cards. If you go into here, compare credit cards, this is compare the markets. This is the frequently asked questions. So how do credit cards work? You can also see Money Supermarket. It's also ranking there for frequently asked questions. What is a credit card? What can you use a credit card for? So the thing to also to remember within frequently asked questions is to give concise answers. Use the frequently asked questions Explorer tool to find out what are people asking and then deliver them that answer. Now you do need to add schema markup for this to ensure that you are ranking for frequently asked questions. But some people can also rank for frequently asked questions and people also ask. If you look at this one for Barclaycard, they are not ranking for frequently asked questions. And if I look and click on people also ask, it's actually creditcards.com that is taking over the PAA area. So back to what you said, Grant, if you're not owning this area, somebody else might be.
Exactly.
And also here you can download the CSV as well. And going back to how you use this yourself and to be able to, own more of the SERPs, from what time period did you actually see a change when you actually used the frequently asked question explorer for your client and then implemented the schema and then saw you owning more of the SERPs? How long did that take?
About a month in total. From initially researching it to proposing what the content would be before it goes live, sign off, CMS, rollout, and all the rest of it as well for my brand. Yes, it took about a month, but it can be done quicker. And Joe, as you said, just because you don't provide the right answer the first time, try and try again.
Okay, great. But in terms of like the sign-off process, I mean, in implementing the schema, was it quite easy within the CMS, or was it something that sort of had to be sold in?
No, it was pretty easy. It was like, how do I answer these questions? Why don't I? It's a question that many brands ask is, how do I get to answer these questions in the first place? So quite often I suggest you either create a series of pages or you make an FAQ page on your website. We'll start off with that, with the series. Ask the questions, the specific questions that are actually coming up and preparing answers in the first place. Related questions on the right hand side, or the title. These are the two areas that we're really looking at as well. Can you answer that question in the first place? This is your first point of call. All the other parts of it play into it: internal linking, schema data, authoritative nature of the website. All these other things do seem to play into this as well. So don't get me wrong, if a big boy that's had a domain for over 20 years wants to come in and can provide the answers as well as you, they'll win. Don't get me wrong about that, but it's possibly looking at the other question that they're not providing the answer for that might be your first opportunity to get in there. As I said, this is about being seen to being seen in the first place.
Okay, great. So basically with the two examples that we've shown today, I mentioned that we have 27 different markets. You can also see this within the frequently asked questions explorer. Here, we're doing back to the UK, back in English, and you can actually generate, as I said, up to 30 different questions. This is for any topic that is within our database. So frequently asked questions explorer also allows you to see, what the competitors are doing. It helped you, I believe, Grant, also identify some content gaps within your website as well.
Yes.
And of course, then you actually were able to own more of the SERPs. In terms of the second point I wanted to highlight in the webinar, identifying these content gaps, what else did it help you to do? To not just adding more information to within the schema for frequently asked questions, or did you mean that you had to add more information in general on the other pages like the blog, or what else did that sort of lead to?
It led to a number of areas of working out about where there was user journeys that just weren't being fulfilled. So it wasn't just actually in the FAQ Explorer part of it. The Visibility Explorer part that starts off and says, well, here's a query, and we've got images and we've got video and we have instant answers and people also asking, etc. These were other ways that you could identify pages that might not fall into this instant answers and people also ask space, but it identifies other content opportunities as well.
Great. Okay, well, thank you very much. That sort of concludes sort of the slight, sort of the main overview of these two features, the Visibility Explorer and Frequently Asked Questions Explorer. What I'm going to do now is just, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a minute so that I can answer some of the questions that have just appeared. So bear with for 1 second. So I have one. One question, is the Frequently Asked Question Explorer only relevant to SERPs that have a frequently asked question, or can it be used across all SERPs? So the Frequently Asked Question Explorer actually just identifies the questions that people are asking. So that gives you the opportunity to be able to see what people are asking, and as Grant mentioned, then identify those content gaps. So as we saw for the credit card sections, we found that there are some people where they're only dominating the people also ask, but what they should be doing is actually owning the frequently asked questions section as well.
Right, here's a question that's come in. How many pages would you optimize with PAA or FAQ schema within your website to see a difference, or does it matter? That really depends on what the questions are in the first place, Carrie. As I said, if someone like Wikipedia or the government, say for instance, wants to answer that question for you, I think they'll get to answer the question more relevantly than you, simply because they'll be deemed as more authoritative. But how many pages within PAA? That really depends. I have seen quite effective things where it's been mainly one large FAQ page, and everything has been written with an H1 tag followed by H2s within it that simply deemed a question and then the answer within it, and they made short, concise answers and managed to provide a good handful of those answers when it came to what you saw in the SERPs as well. I hope that answers your question, Carrie.
I think it did. I have another one. I just ran a frequently asked questions query and it generated 0 questions. Is that result unusual? Well, it should, if there was questions that people have been asking, then it should generate some results. It depends on what you generated, but perhaps you can email me later. I'll put my email address here and you can just, you can email me about that one.
Google doesn't have an answer to all the questions yet, right? So there still is that opportunity to put that content on your website. Just because nobody answers the question doesn't mean to say that it can't be answered in the first place. So as long as it's written in the right format and we can use schema data for this, etc., in the first place, then it may become relevant. I suppose it really depends on what the question is and possibly where you're asking the question as well. Obviously, if we're asking a question in English about a UK domain, but I just so happen to be in the middle of Finland or somewhere like that at the time, I might not get the most relevant answer coming back.
Okay, thank you, Grant, for that. Have we got any more questions from the attendees? I think I might see something coming this 1 second. No, I don't. Oh, I don't think I have anything right now. Let me just give it a minute.
Joe, we had a chat earlier on, and we were talking about a certain brand where the query was, where can I return my Boohoo order? I thought that was a great example where Boohoo, big brands, everybody knows who they are, but it was a Collect Plus, and This Is Money. They're providing the answers to these questions as well. So there are opportunities there where brand could be deemed to be able to answer that question, and they clearly can. But it's along the lines of, it's a classic example of why did Collect Plus steal that space for that query at that moment in time. So there, quite often for brands, there will be opportunities to be the core brand that answers the questions as they are actually relevant entirely to working with their website as well. Buying products off them is a great opportunity for maybe them to be seen to be answering the question in the first place.
Yes, I think what this webinar highlights the fact that there are people that, you know, as we did this example about where can I return my Boohoo order, you know, even the brand wasn't ranking for that, which was a bit strange. There was another company, obviously Collect Plus, that was actually in the people also asked. So if you're not basically providing the information and structuring your data on your website, other people will own this. So I have another question. How do these two features that we've seen compare with other tools in the market, as an Authoritas is the only one with it? So I've worked with another different platforms as well. You know, I've worked in SEO for a number of years, and for the frequently asked questions one, I haven't seen anything like that yet in the market. In terms of the Visibility Explorer, that gives a lot of detail about the universal search results, as well as the different ranking URLs, as well as, of course, you know, sort of the keywords that we have that they're ranking for. So yes, there are a few other platforms in the market, but what we do with the Visibility Explorer and Frequently Asked Questions Explorer is to try and highlight some of these key insights that you can get, not just for yourselves, but for your competitors, and also find sort of gaps in that market for that. You can download about up to 500,000 different records as well. And some of you as well are fans of export and then filtering.
Yeah, and as you say, there's lots of other tools out there, but it's managing the expectations about what we're going to get from these initial research tools in the first place. You know, we've all tried SEMrush and various other things as well, and too often have been disappointed. It gives me, you know, it doesn't tell me the information, the rankings, the URLs, etc. And Authoritas came along with a fresher database, and it's more relevant and more reliant as a starting point, getting into the detail later on.
Thank you. Yes, and if anybody would like to sort of find out more about the platform, you maybe would like a demo, and you'd like to actually dig even deeper into the features. Obviously, we just went through 2 today. Then please have a look, sign up to the webinar demo, which I've just shared to everyone in the chat. You will all that have attended receive an email, and you will also see that within your email. I'll just ask one last question or one last shout out for anyone if they have any other further questions about the Frequently Asked Question Explorer, or the Frequently Asked Question Explorer, or the Visibility Explorer. I'll just put that back in the chat. Let me know if you can see that. So it's authoritas.com/webinar and then -demo. But all of you that have attended, you will get a link to that in an email. So, well, I think that concludes the day. As I mentioned, it's going to be a quick webinar. We wanted to show you some of these key insights, how you gain competitive insights about your what's in the market, how you can identify content gaps, and also how you can actually own more of the SERPs. So thanks very much, Grant, for joining us today. And thank you to all of you for attending. You will also get a copy of the video.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.